morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 5th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Shelley Bueller. I serve as chair of the commission alongside my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Bob Archer.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Kevin Cook.
Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Clerk, the first item, please.
First item today is item 3, consent agenda.
There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I have no questions, and I would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, this morning we have one voucher report dated December the 2nd, 2016. Total amount of vouchers, $1,012,472.47. Significant items on the vouchers include payroll of $499,000 and health insurance for $224,000. I've reviewed the vouchers, have no questions, and I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item B, Public Works number 1, consider approval of request to fill a road maintenance staff position and any subsequent openings that may result upon the filling of this position at a salary including benefits of $42,995.89.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Blank, Public Works and Solid Waste. As mentioned, this is a Public Works item. And we have had another gentleman indicate he is planning on retiring after many years of service on December 16th of this year. And it is our hope that we can refill that position upon his retirement. Any questions? I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions?
Move to approve the request.
So motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thanks, Tom.
Item C, Sheriff's Office number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-358-2016 with Equifax of Kansas for a vendor booth space at a cost of $750.
Morning, Commissioners. Lance Royer with the Sheriff's Office. This is a recruiting opportunity that we will set a booth up and request permission to pay that registration fee.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions?
I move for approval.
There's a motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item C2, acknowledge receipt of correspondence regarding award of bid to Lesser Electric for purchase of a generator at an amount of $65,000. Generac. I knew it was that, something like
Lance
that.
Royer again, Commissioners. We have one of our tower sites for our radio system in a commercial building. We thought we were pretty safe, but we realized when electricity went out in that building, we weren't covered as well as we did. So after about 16 hours, that building was out of power. We lost our tower site there. So we realized we do have a need to put a generator in that facility. We did go out for bid. We received 2 bids. The low bidder reassessed the job, like realizing the last 2 floors, the elevator doesn't go up those 2 floors. So he was going to have to cart a generator up 2 floors. He's a one-man shop. Decided that he'd bid off a little more than he could chew, so he withdrew his bid. That leaves us one bid, Lesser Electric, who has done most of the work at all our tower sites on the generators and electrical work. So be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any
Madam Chair?
questions? Yes, Commissioner Cook.
I confirm with the captain before the meeting that this item is not the same item that was submitted under a capital outlay cost for 2017. And so just to clarify that there is a separate generator that's being considered for 2017.
Thank you. Any further questions or motion?
I would move to acknowledge receipt.
So motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item C3, consider authorization and execution of contract C-359-2016 with Tyler Software for New World Mobile Software for in-car mapping, training, support, and maintenance in an amount of $19,880.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Lance Royer. This is adding additional software. When we switched to the Microsoft platform, it allowed some new packages What this package does is allow the officers to see where other officers are by looking at their computer in the car. It also will give turn-by-turn directions verbally to the officers as they're driving to a location. And this will be the support, the training, and the installation and maintenance for this package. So, if you haven't answered any other questions.
Thank you. And no questions, I'll move approval of the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Lance.
Item D, planning. Number 1, presentation and discussion of Shawnee County Building Code proposal.
And Barry, I believe Mr. Weichert is going to do the presentation, correct? Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ivan Weichert. I'm the CEO for the Topeka Home Builders Association region. What we presented to you is what we were asked to do. Commissioner Archer was very integral in our first year sessions and made it very clear that we needed to come forward with a program that would do what we wanted to accomplish of establishing a minimum building code, but also accomplish that without taxpayer impact. And that means that the program itself needs to be self-sufficient. It would not receive any funding from the general fund. That made it a little tough. how to institute a program without having staff and an office to support that. But we did come up with an idea that we think will accomplish that and be able to move us forward. The proposal is basically a two-phased approach. We want to have you approve a minimum building code for the county, for the unincorporated areas of the county. And in doing so, we wanted to not make that a burden on the people who are already working both in the city and the county. So we chose to adopt the same codes that were currently being enforced in the city of Topeka. That was pretty much an easy decision for us to move in that direction. We didn't want to adopt something that would require a whole new set of training or schooling or testing, but have something come in that would make it an easy transition to move forward for the people already working in this field. That first phase would require a contractor, whether that be a general contractor or any licensed trade contractor, electrician, plumber, mechanical, anyone who's doing that kind of work would first apply for a permit, then sign an affidavit that would attest that that project would be built and would adhere to those codes. Now that doesn't provide any inspection at that point. It's merely a proposal that would require that builder or contractor to attest that they would follow the code. That doesn't do anything more at that point than give the homeowner or business they're working for an assurance that something's being done correctly. And we say that correctly because Shawnee County, unincorporated Shawnee County, has never had a minimum building standard, ever. One attempt back in the, I believe, the early 90s was to establish a requirement for smoke detectors in new construction. That was passed by a previous commission. It was never enforced. So there's still been no adherence to minimum building codes in unincorporated Shawnee County. We feel like that's very important, and this first step of requiring an affidavit at least puts the onus on the contractor, on the person doing the work, to show to the customer and to the county that they're doing this correctly. My belief is that very few people in unincorporated Shawnee County know that there have never been any inspections on their properties. I get calls at our office asking for copies of inspection reports for their homes. If maybe they moved in and it's 5 or 7 years old and they want to know how it was done. Of course, if they live in the unincorporated county, there is no such report, and I have to tell them that. And it's up to them to follow through. So just a little side note, this morning's news talking about the fire in Oakland, California. For 12 years, officials in that area have been concerned about the building that caught on fire and many people died. 12 years. We've been going a lot longer than that with no codes, and I hope that no such disaster would come upon us before we would finally decide to move into this century and adopt some minimum standard codes. A handout that I put in front of you with a graph chart there shows the number of permits that have been taken out in unincorporated Shawnee County and the city of Topeka. And you can see by the orange-colored line of the county permits that the county has outpaced the city by far in the last 2 years in their granting of permits. But when you grant a permit in the county, you only acknowledge that it's properly placed on a piece of property, that it meets the zoning, and from then on, it's pretty much hands-off. Now, there may be a septic tank that gets inspected, but that's pretty much it from that point on. So, for 10 years, the county has outpaced the city, 1,563 permits to about 1,160 permits. So it's been going on like that for quite a long time. It indicates that people like to live in the county. They like that lifestyle. They like that location. We appreciate that, and we want to support that. But we want them to know that their property has been built and or repaired or maintained to at least a minimum code. As we move forward with the first phase, we expect that time of issuing permits and collecting fees, that we would set aside those monies until we reached a point where we could have an office that would provide an inspector, a senior code official, and support staff for that. That is outlined with a proposal which would make good off-time reading. It's quite a few pages to get through. We feel like this is a good approach to establishing this without, like we said before, without having that impact on the taxpayers of having to fund an office that wouldn't make enough money in the short term to even provide the first staff for it. So we think that's a good compromise and a good way to move forward. Many of the people who worked on this committee, if you'd raise your hands, there's several people here who've been involved in that committee. That's many, many years of professional experience that have gone for the last 2 years working on this project. I personally and some others, this is not our first time before the commission to propose this type of code. So we are hopeful that you'll see the need and the timeliness of moving forward with this and approve this whenever that comes before you for approval. I'd be happy to stand for questions or any of our personnel here.
Ivan, if it's not too much trouble, I think it would be a good idea if each of the building code committee members came up and just introduced themselves and tell who they work with.
We would be happy to do that. We just didn't want to impose on your time, so we'll do that.
If that's okay with the commissioners. I think
Absolutely.
it's important. They've given a huge amount of time, but it would be appreciated if you would just come up and introduce your name and do not be shy.
Commissioners, Brian Smith. I'm an attorney here in town. I was on the Topeka Shawnee County Planning Commission for about 5 years and do a lot of work on behalf of developers, contractors, different trades, and that, I think, is why they asked me to participate on the committee. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff Doltmeyer, I'm a builder in the county with Doltmeyer Homes.
Thank you.
Charlie Campbell, Topeka Wind Supply, have 30 years in mechanical and general remodeling and construction.
Tom Waltkamp, Waltkamp Construction, 41 years as a commercial general contractor.
Mike Presco, PDQ Construction, owner, remodeler here in town. Also on the state builders board. Kind of interesting when you sit in on those meetings and you talk to all these people from around the state and tell them that we do not have codes in our county, and they're like, what? So it was great to be able to sit down with all these guys and talk about this and have a hope of getting a code. Also on the national board too. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Richard Faulkner, City of Topeka. I'm the building official for the City of Topeka. I've been in the building code trade for 30 years.
Scott Gales, President of Architect One. I'm currently the chairman of the Planning Commission for the City of Topeka. Lived in the city since 1993 and been a licensed professional since 1996. So.
Thanks, Scott.
Brian Threadgold, Business Manager of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 226, having jurisdiction in Shawnee County.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Archer?
I was going to say my brother-in-law, Jerry Dash, didn't come up, and I don't expect any Christmas presents from him this year. But thank you for serving, Jerry.
Well, you have to understand, these gentlemen all knew what they were doing. I come from real estate, mortgage banking, and that committee got so confusing for me.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Ivan, as you said, the depth of experience in our community and in the trades is something to be noticed. So, Commissioner Cook, did you have any?
No, I just really appreciate all the work that the committee put in. Obviously, we can't compensate you enough of what you've done, and so I think the compensation worked out pretty good for the county overall. And really, all of your time and expertise that you brought, this is a good, broad cross-section of the community. Builders, developers, people that are working in the building trades and providing their expertise to us.
And my understanding, Commissioners, is the next step for any action is a reading of a home, and Barry, I'm going to look to you too, a reading of a home rule resolution that would require 2 readings, and that be placed on the December 8th commission meeting, the first reading, and then possible final action then on the 12th of December. Commissioners, I'm looking for feedback on that.
Commissioner Bueller, with all due respect to all the work that the committee has put into it, I would like just a little bit more time to go through the code, make sure that I've had a chance to really review it and digest it before adoption, just to make sure that we know exactly what we're biting off and getting ourselves into. And so I might need a little bit more time than the 8th to digest that. I don't know where Commissioner Archer stands on that, or...
Well, not surprisingly, I do have a number of questions, and this would probably be a good time to begin if that's appropriate, Madam Chair.
Sure. Fire away with the questions,
Okay.
but...
and it probably for Barry.
Okay.
But first of all,
Noted.
I do want to thank everybody that participated. I appreciate your service. But something like this that's so important has to be scrutinized, and a lot of questions have to be asked. The first question I have is did you meet with our finance team and our legal team in developing this?
Met with, Josh Smith with the County Counselor's Office was an integral part of the committee's work. As a matter of fact, everything before it was put in final form passed through his eyes, and he reviewed and signed off on it before it became what was considered final. I also sent this pack of information to Benny Greiner. Benny did review it. We've had conversations with regard to it, both about a month or so ago in looking at different funding concepts with regard to this program, as well as here in the final stages of looking at this proposal and seeing how it would work.
So you have coordinated
Yes.
with legal and finance?
Yes.
Good, thanks. Who wrote the document? Was there a model from another county? I went through it all this weekend and thought, interesting. Did you write it personally?
Well, I put it together, and then the committee, did all the hard work of going through it and making it work within Shawnee County. What we used as a model was the Miami County Building Code program. They have a rather small program, such as what we are looking to achieve in Shawnee County, and we utilize that as the basis for the development of the core document itself, the Building Code program document. But then from there, that was a point of departure as well, as the committee got into the document and tried to refine it based on what our expectations are going to be within Shawnee County. And so they did all the heavy lifting of reviewing it and making sure that it read such as we wanted it to read. Beyond that, in looking at fee schedules, It was a kind of a combination approach, and looking at that, we did not want to reinvent the wheel, if you will, with regard to single and two-family construction, so we agreed to abide by the fee schedule as currently in effect within the city of Topeka, so we would apply that within the unincorporated area. We otherwise employed a different fee schedule as it relates to both commercial construction as well as the other permit types such as sign permits, fence permits, et cetera, inspection type of fees, which is part of the resolution. So we did a fairly comprehensive approach in trying to look at how other communities put their programs together and then adapting it to fit within what we were trying to achieve here in Shawnee County.
Okay, thank you. Where's the financial document?
Well, the financial document is the approach itself. This is, following the commission's mandate, this is going to be a fee-based program. So it's not going to be a general fund program in the sense that we're funded through the general fund and then there's reimbursement back and forth. So the permit fees is what is going to float this program. There's no specific documentation before you that describes that. That's in the resolution itself. We did not want to put that on the agenda yet since we were just bringing this forward for discussion. But we can provide you with the financial information that we went through in trying to calculate the projected startup cost for the program, hiring staff and all the resources that are necessary, as well as we generated a working budget for the Building Code Services Division, so we would know what the annual operating cost associated with that would be. We'd be more than happy to
Okay.
get you
Well,
all that
I think
information.
that's important that we look, how much do we want to accumulate for the startup?
Absolutely.
When do we anticipate startup? How much the annual expense is going to be? Because we're talking about building a bureaucracy within Shawnee County. We're going to have an administrative assistant, a supervisor, an all-trades inspector. So I think that's important that we look at the financial information. And it will take money away from general fund, about $130,000 a year. So it's not really self-funded to the effect that we're taking money that generally goes into the general fund and putting it to this program. Is that correct?
Well,
make sure I understand what we're
It
doing.
is true that permit fees that are collected today
Go
go
into
straight
the
back
general
into the
fund.
general
Okay.
fund, and that would end with the implementation of this program. We would
Okay.
capture all fees that are generated by this program, and that is what would support the program itself.
So we would have to make up that with
The
a tax
$120,000
increase or reducing expenses
annually.
somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Mhm.
Okay. The affidavit of code compliance, can you explain how that works?
Well, during the first phase of implementation of the program, so we estimate that it would probably take at least a couple of years in order for the program fund to accumulate enough funds to hit the projected startup cost. And during that first phase of implementation, we would employ this affidavit of code compliance. And as Ivan had indicated, contractors would, with any building project, would fill out this form and submit it, and they acknowledge that there is in fact a code, adopted code within Shawnee County, and that they will build in accordance with that code. So they are putting their credentials on the line with regard to that construction project during that time frame. So that's the design and purpose of that affidavit.
Do you have confidence in this approach?
I do. I think that it would work. Like I said, this is not the end goal, because ultimately what we want to do is have inspections which are occurring, plan review and inspections to confirm, in fact, that the type of construction which is occurring, mostly people's homes, that it is actually being built in accordance with the manner in which they indicate it will be. And I think that if you would poll the members of the committee, that would be their expectation, that yes, somebody would come out and verify in the field that they're actually designing and building a home in accordance with the minimum construction codes.
Through the affidavit process?
No, ultimately, that with the full implementation of the program, then that would lead to the hiring of the 3 full-time individuals, the administrative assistant, chief building official, and the combination inspector. That is the end goal, is to make sure that we have a competent staff on board that has the capability of going out, well, not only going out and actually doing the field inspection, but also sitting in office and doing the plan reviews, making sure that what they are intending to build is actually compliant with the code first, after verifying that, then actually inspecting it in the field to assure that what is being built is compliant. But if you would poll the members of the committee, everybody would say that that is the ultimate objective, is to make sure that what is actually being built is inspected and verified in the field.
But if we have confidence in this approach for the next 2 or 3 years until we get the seed money, why don't we have confidence in that approach going forward from there?
Well, ultimately, it is a question of accountability.
Okay.
And we want to make sure, like I said, that by having competent staff and field inspection, we are holding the development community accountable. Now, as Ivan has indicated, we've never had a building code at all within the unincorporated area. And so we were to institute a building code generally by practice, not only within the state of Kansas, but nationwide, where there is actual field inspection to confirm that that is what is occurring. Now, in this particular case, in order to meet the mandate of this being a self-funded program, that we took this two-phase approach just because we did not want to involve a nickel of taxpayer dollars in funding this program. And so delaying the hiring of staff was in order to meet that objective, so that way we would build up the fund, accumulate the necessary startup costs to actually then hire the staff. So this two-phase approach is in order to meet that funding objective.
And what is going to be the annual expense of the staff, including benefits?
We project an annual budget of around $200,000.
$200,000, okay. Final question, and thank you, Madam Chair. Why do we need a new bureaucracy within the county? Why can't a contractor go to an inspector and say, I will agree with you to inspect my property based on these building codes, and then I will certify to the county planning department that we have met, we're in compliance?
Tell you what.
Why does it have to be the county bureaucracy instead of individual contractors and developers working with an inspector?
Okay, you raise a good question, and I'm more than happy to defer to the professionals, standing behind me, and allow them to respond to this
So,
question.
thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Commissioner Archer. I'd like to field that question. One of the, I believe another unknown when people are dealing with private inspectors is that they're not licensed. You can become a home inspector by just calling yourself a home inspector and starting your business. There are quite a few in our area, and certainly someone, I think, if they were smart right now, could hire one of the more established inspectors. There is a group, a national group, that does require testing and things, but it's certainly self-regulating. You can do this if you want to, if you're an inspector. So a builder could hire someone to inspect his properties and give a report to the homeowner or to whoever wished it, but finding the qualified inspector is the next step. It's a little harder. So many inspectors that are available through the Yellow Pages, online, Yelp, all those things, they just decided they weren't going to work anymore and they wanted to be an inspector. And we've run into several issues where someone, usually they're used in buying and selling homes. A home buyer will require a home inspection, and that person can come out and look and maybe find something that should be corrected, but many times they're not qualified in any of the trades, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, heating and air, or in general contracting. They don't have the background for that. So we seek to have that done professionally, as it is in almost every municipality and county of our size and our population, especially within the state of Kansas, but elsewhere. So it's a trust and verify thing. I think that it should be done by a professional, and perhaps.
And I agree with that, but I think you're comparing a home inspector with somebody that's licensed plumber or licensed electrician that can actually sign off on the building code.
No, they can't sign off. They don't have the authority to sign off on a building code. They may say, in my opinion, this has been built correctly, this has been done correctly. Putting in a new electrical service in your home requires something more than a home inspector to come and do that, both to do the work, but then if someone else is going to inspect it, we can't personally hire an inspector that works for the city of Topeka. I believe that's not permitted. It just isn't done. Now, someone could put themselves out as, maybe they worked for the city or another city at some time, and they could hire themselves out to do that. There are some engineers, one of which was on our committee, who does that quite often. He goes out and inspects. John Lyle is one of those, and very well respected, very smart and accomplished individual in that field, and he can do that personally. But maybe a builder doesn't want that. Right now, a builder doesn't have to hire anyone, and they may continue to do that. So there's no accountability is what we're after, and we're not trying to put anyone out of business that doesn't follow these rules now. We say, step up, get your license, adhere to the code, and move on. Just keep working, but doing it correctly.
I'm still a little fuzzy on that, but that's fine. I'll look into that and visit more with Barry. But in the final analysis, Barry, if I understand this correctly, we're going to be spending around $200,000 a year, and that's going to be a net offset from the general fund.
Correct. Well, right
Okay.
now, you are, Shawnee County is reaping about $120,000 on average.
$130,000 over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I averaged it out.
And so that's what the net loss would be.
Right.
Now, as far as the operation of the program, if we generate $150,000, $200,000, which is necessary to keep the program afloat, yeah, that's going to be different because that is money that is necessary to keep the program itself afloat. But otherwise, you're looking at the average of the last, 5 years, around $120,000, $130,000 is what would be lost. That's true.
Okay. So
Now, I will indicate, just as far as one additional number, something I should have mentioned before, we are projecting a startup cost associated with this program to hire the staff, acquire all the necessary resources, and so forth, about $300,000. And again, that would all be fee-based. So during this interim phase, the monies that are collected from contractor licensing, trade permit fees, building permit fees, et cetera, that would all accumulate in a special building code program fund for specifically that purpose. And then once it hits that $300,000 mark, then that would trigger the expenditure of that fund to start, then full implementation of the program. So.
Okay. And when I participated, when I said it had to be self-sufficient, I meant the marginal cost of the inspectors and everything would have to be funded, but that's not what's happening in the final analysis. The taxpayers are going to be on the hook for what, $300,000 to start up, and then
No.
Okay.
Again, everything is fee-based.
Right.
So it's pay-as-you-go. So the contractors themselves and the construction projects that are coming in, be it everything from a fence permit all the way through a major commercial building to a single-family home to a sign permit, whatever, contractor fees, all that money is collected, and that goes into that special program fund. During this time, both are for the first phase of implementation, and then once we reach full implementation, not a nickel of taxpayer dollars is going to go into the operation of the program.
but that is money that would ordinarily go into the general fund to offset.
That would be the loss in the revenue
Okay.
stream overall for the general fund. That is true, but as far as the operation of the building code
Right.
program, it is self-sustaining.
Okay. Thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. Thank you,
Barry-
Madam Chair.
Barry, don't go too far. Sorry.
And also anything I'm saying that needs to be corrected, I may ask the committee members to.
And you need
Go ahead,
to
Bonnie,
come up
Richard.
to the podium so we can capture your voice.
It may not be that much, but right now, we're not, or the county isn't accepting contractors' fees. To my knowledge, we're not doing plumbing permits,
Right.
electrical permits. So all those are additional fees, so that the money, so there will be some additional money coming in, so the whole, it won't be an actual, as your 130,000 as you're saying, so there will be some additional funds coming in that will lower that.
How much?
I don't know.
Well, the fee schedule I saw was like $50 and $60 inspection fees. I don't know that that's going to generate tens of thousands of dollars.
The contractor licensing fees is a substantial amount, at least it is in the city, so they're similar to ours, so it will generate a couple of thousand for sure.
couple of thousand. Okay, thank you, Richard.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Do you have a comment, though, on the item or on the discussion, I guess?
Yeah, one of the things I want to, would like to make clear is that, yes, we would be losing $130,000 of existing revenue that's going into the general fund, but out of that general fund comes the salaries and expenses of the people that are running the permit department now. Can't tell you what that is, but you're not losing the entire 130 because you may be getting the 130 average in each year that goes to the general fund, but that general fund then that pays for the staff and the expenses for the department that's currently operational.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Yeah. Commissioner Cook?
Barry, with a two-stepped approach, the first, the implementation of a minimum code, that itself does not cost the county any funds.
Correct.
That would be the affidavit.
Correct.
And if I understand correctly, if I am a homeowner and I have a concern about whether or not my home was built to the minimum code, and then I hire an inspector who comes out and determines that it was not built to a minimum code, it would enable me to file maybe a lawsuit against the developer that they did not meet that minimum code.
And there's that sheet of paper, the affidavit that is notarized, that is submitted, that says, yes, we will build in accordance with code. Now they have an actionable item.
And at that time, all of that action would be really exclusive of Shawnee County. Shawnee County is the implementator of a code, but we are not doing the inspection. We are not party to a lawsuit. We're not, it is really between the homeowner and the developer.
Yes, if somebody is unsatisfied with the manner in which their home is being constructed, yes, that would be a civil matter between the two of them.
And so in the world of politics, we might call that an unfunded mandate. We've created a minimum code without any real implementation from the governing body.
True.
Okay. So then the step two would be that funded mandate of the hiring a code inspector, right?
Correct.
How closely does this code mirror the city of Topeka's codes as far as adoption of international standards?
It would be identical.
All right. And the city of Topeka currently has code inspectors.
Correct.
Have we explored whether or not we would be able to contract with the city of Topeka or form an interlocal agreement with the city of Topeka to have the city of Topeka code inspectors rather than create our own code inspectors?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And
And-
what process did that go through?
And I will be more than happy to defer to my learned colleague again.
I'll take that question in protection of Barry. That very concept was something that I supported from the beginning. I thought, what better way to make this a smooth transition and to keep costs down, not build a bureaucracy, as Commissioner Archer said.
And I might stop you. We say it's a new project instead of bureaucracy. Bureaucracy has such a negative connotation.
His words,
That's
not
why I
mine.
used it.
I pushed on that very concept, and that's why we invited Richard Faulkner over. We did extensive time, both in the first session and in this year's session, on finding out how that could work. We were led to believe that the county would not entertain any contract with the city of Topeka. And the references given, and I will not mention any names, the references given were they were so disappointed with the work that was being done on the aquatic facility that they would never, never allow the city of Topeka to partner with them in building codes. We basically were shot down on that idea. I think, I'm one that thinks we should have the joint planning commission again from city and county. That's how much I enjoy people getting along, but this was not a good thing to have them say, don't go there. We don't want that.
But, Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
might. Mr. Weichert, if we look at this, we have a code that is very comparable, if not identical, to the city of Topeka. We have a permitting process that is very close, if not identical, to the city of Topeka. A code inspector process that is very close, if not the same. A minimum standard for being able to be put in electrical, plumbing, whatever trades you might have with the city of Topeka. So in all essences, these two systems are really very identical to each other.
That's correct, and that's not an accident. We wanted to make this project be easy to move. There are many, many, many contractors and tradesmen in this area who work both in the city and the county. We mirrored that for the express purpose to make that an easy transition. If you're an electrician in the city of Topeka, don't confuse it with a different code, with a different system, with a different method, just because you cross the street and go into unincorporated Shawnee County. That's why we moved that direction. The codes are national codes and international codes that also the city of Topeka has adopted. That's the codes we wish to follow. It's not because we just love the city and that's the only way we'll do it. We wanted to make it a good transition for everyone working in the field to move easily into the county code system.
So with this adoption, it would really create the discussion as to why, if there is any need for a separate code or compliance for planning between the city and the county.
I would welcome that discussion.
Commissioner Archer?
But from what I recall, there were some exclusions from what the city is doing. Is that correct? It wasn't line for line.
There were exclusions that the city has made for certain contractor fields and trades.
Right.
We didn't exclude anything from the city other than maybe making specific reference that agriculture would not be involved in this.
Okay. Okay. I remember reading there were
We have
some
excluded
exclusions.
things in the national codes that have been discussed and worked over and decided again, by the different boards within the city of Topeka.
One more item, Madam Chair. I assume that when we set the budget for 2017, we included the fees that we anticipated from planning and Betty's. So we're going to have to come up with some methodology to offset the loss in the fees. I assume you're talking about January 1 for implementation.
We did not propose a start date. We feel like that's entirely up to this body.
But that's money we assume that would go into our general fund that won't now. So that money's got to be made up somewhere.
True.
And
Potentially.
offhand, I don't know where.
That money, it's a little bit of a sore spot for many of us in this field because those fees were set and we knew that there was extra money in that was going to the general fund. But contractors and homeowners never realized any benefit from those fees. We considered that a tax. You're collecting money for a fee for the building permit. Very little time at all is spent on approving that permit, and then it's hands off. So we're not in accordance with that fee structure to begin with.
Okay. Thank you again, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Actually,
Oh,
I
go
have
ahead.
a
Sorry.
question for Barry. On the resolution, the potential resolution, the home rule resolution, then is it broken out into two phases?
It is.
So there are two separate resolutions
No,
then?
it was combined in one resolution.
One resolution, and so phase 1 and 2 then are broken out, and then a vote would need to be taken then, and that is the direction, and some timelines would be put on at that point, correct?
Well-
As far as phase 1 doesn't have any dollar implication for 17, or does it, if you start the program right away?
Well, the only implication, as Commissioner Archer indicated, is that it would remove money from the fee stream or revenue stream coming into the county.
Wouldn't remove existing, though, it just new dollars for 17?
Right. So, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just as you place that resolution on, I think that needs to be thought out a little bit, and then some financials included with that. I think that would be helpful.
We'd be more than happy to supply.
Yeah.
Sure. I have a
Yes,
question
Commissioner
for maybe our county counselor, if we can.
Jim Crow.
Part of why I was looking at how much longer I would need for the 8th of December is really the full impact of the code and really digesting what its impact is. As I indicated earlier, with the first step, it really has little to no impact on Shawnee County and our budget and our operation.
Mm-hmm.
But, Mr. Crowell, as we go forward, if we are setting ourselves on a path to set forth a reunification with the city of Topeka for a planning department, a interlocal agreement with the city of Topeka, which would be phase 2. I mean, in all practical aspects, that's phase 2, and that's where that part comes into, with the code inspectors, the funding. What steps would we need to go through for that to even be explored?
Well, if you're talking about considering an interlocal agreement with the city of Topeka, then definitely we would need to have meetings with the principals on the city side to come up with a proposal for how that would work, and we would have to ultimately negotiate an interlocal agreement, so that will take time.
And if we were looking at, phase 1 really has no financial impact on Shawnee County, whereas phase 2 does. If we are even entertaining the thought of a discussion with the city of Topeka, which I don't know what the flavor of the commission may be as to whether or not that's something we even want to explore as a body, why would we not wait then to start phase 2 until we've explored that interlocal?
And I think that's a good point, and I think I'm going to defer to Betty on a point that I think I know what she's going to make.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes.
point of information, Commissioner, are you talking about working with the city to perform the inspections or to consolidate the planning functions? Or both?
Both.
Okay.
At this point, I think we really need to make an informed decision as a commission
Okay.
as to what scope we, as a body, want to embark upon.
Agreed.
I think those are two possibilities. I think we need to remember, too, that we are going through a comprehensive plan in the unincorporated areas of the county. That work is not supposed to be finished until June.
Mid-year, yeah.
So there's a lot taking place, and that would need to be factored in as well.
And again, I think that, overall, the adoption of phase 1 really probably could pass through very easily. It's phase 2 that we seem to be really having more concern regarding. And again, I think we need to make sure we really fully appreciate all of the different opportunities we have, and make sure we explore those. And if we rule them out, so be it. If it doesn't make any sense to have even a discussion of an interlocal agreement with the city of Topeka, or it's not politically advisable to proceed with a reunified planning department. And again, that's not a discussion this board has ever had, and the only way we can have it is right here. So.
Betty, did you have something to ask?
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. As it stands right now and as it's laid out, as I understand it, phase 1 not only includes the adoption of the building code, which would not have any financial effect, but it also approves the transfer of those current fees into a different fund, so out of the general fund and into a separate fund. So it would have a financial impact of that $130,000 a year. So there is a financial impact. It's about $130,000 a year that, especially in 17, was budgeted to come into the general fund to. Is that?
But that is the recommendation, but
yes,
we do have the ability, to change that.
Yes,
correct?
but as of right now, phase 1
That's the recommendation.
would include both adopting the code and transferring those, or changing that revenue stream to a separate
account.
Sure. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Betty, if we were to consider the implementation of phase 1 and the defer any action on phase 2 until June, so there would not be any revenue taken out, we would not be setting aside a separate account for phase 2 until we really look at how far we want to take this, whether or not we want to have our own code or an interlocal, or June. And I say June just as a mid-year point to digest that. What would be your opinion, if you have any opinion at this point?
Well, I mean, as I see it right now, if you're, that would be changing what they currently have as phase one. Now, that would be at your discretion, I would assume, but that would be changing their current phase one, because their current phase one, at whatever implementation date you determine, whether it is January 1, July 1, whatever it is, at that point in time, that revenue stream would change.
And that's an integral part of phase one, from what I understand, is the money would automatically begin to go into the separate
Yes.
account. Okay.
I mean, Commissioner Archer, I think that I've heard you remark on multiple occasions that more government is better government.
Say that all the time, Commissioner.
And so I think that before we create a new program, and implementation of a new program, that we make sure that there's not an existing program that we might be able to combine our efforts on and work with.
I agree.
Also, one other item on the, and just for my own clarification and for yours, it was my understanding that the current staff would remain a general fund expenditure. Is that correct? Okay, because the one gentleman mentioned offsetting current staff, and it's my understanding that will remain the same. It would only be new staff that come on that would be paid out of this new fund.
Thank you. Further questions for Jim or for Betty? Not at this time. Yes, Ivan?
I'd like to make one final comment on behalf of our committee. Please understand and know that our reason for bringing this forward was health and safety. Getting into the very messy details of the finances of this was not something we enjoyed or feel like it's going anywhere productively. We feel like it is important to establish a minimum building code for unincorporated Shawnee County to protect its citizens. Period. Period. That's our driving force. Work out the money however you think is best. We already pay fees. I've carried a license in the city of Topeka since they adopted licensing, and I continue to do so. I don't build much anymore, but I feel like it's a support of my association. I work with Habitat, also lend support to them. It's important for me to carry that license and keep my educational credits up to date. That's what we're asking for every person who enters a home or a business in Shawnee County, that they come in with credentials, insurance, and a knowledge of the code and what needs to be done correctly. That's why.
Well, and Ivan, and you all have met for a number of meetings, and you've had extensive public comment as well. But this is a huge change for the unincorporated areas of the county, so I think we want to give it ample time for even more public discussion and input back to the commission on what's the best decision. And you had a goal of meeting, coming to us on your recommendations by the end of the year, correct? So Commissioner Cook and Commissioner Archer, if we want, they met their goal. And so if we want to extend this conversation and not take any action on it, I just need some direction for the next couple of meetings as I set the agendas. We have a good deal of work to do by the end of the year. But if that is something we want to wait until January, I just need to know.
I support very much Commissioner Cook's admonition on that we had no intention of coming to a decision this quickly.
Okay.
We met the request to us of coming back within this year. We were up until last week still meeting on these things.
Right.
So I'm very much in favor of thoughtful consideration on this and not timely speed.
Okay, very good. Yes, sure.
Brian Smith, I was on the combined Shawnee County Topeka Planning Commission, and I was appointed both by the city one time and by the county one time. So I served as a county employee and a city employee. You've raised an interesting question about inspections versus planning, and they're really two separate functions. And if you wanted us to explore an interlocal agreement as to inspections, then I I think the committee members and all would be open if that was the direction that you wanted a group of us to go over and explore that. And there's a number of members on the committee that work regularly both with the county and with the city, and see what, and come back with a report to you about what that would potentially look like. I don't think we don't even have to talk about combining planning functions. I wouldn't hesitate if you wanted me and a couple of the other folks to do that, we'd be glad to do that. I mean, I deal with the city regularly, we could initiate those conversations, but we'd have to know that that was a direction that the commission wanted us to explore. If it's not, then we need to continue to work on funding it on this side. And I just wanted you to hear that from us, because there's some expertise on this committee that, they've been at this over a year now, and that, would have an idea of what it would look like. And since we've come to you with a proposal that let's adopt a code that is really what the city's already adopted, because that works for a lot of the trades very easily, that then gives us a jumping point, to talk to the city. So give us the direction, I'm sure we'll be glad to take it.
That's helpful, thank you. Is that something the
Well, and I
commission-
think Commissioner Cook,
Yeah.
I concur. I think we should do that.
I know that we also haven't had any weigh-in from the city of Topeka, city council. The city council may issue an opinion that they have no interest in doing business with us. And I would hope not, that would be the response, but, again, we have not allowed the city of Topeka to have any input into this.
Right.
Chuck Doltmeyer, I'm a local builder. I lived in Topeka, Kansas all my life, and by the way, Shawnee County too. I draw no lines. I work well with either one. But in every house, I do about 30 a year. In every house, I put approximately $600 in there for a permit. And I think the consumer deserves to get something for their buck, which I know you feel like we're taking $130,000 out of general funds, but maybe you've been taking $130,000 out of development of a program. And I do believe in inspections, I do believe in code, but if we go with a code, at least we have something. That's better than nothing. And we could attack the other later. I think there'd be a lot of opposition to going with the city, not that I am, but it may beat it down. I'd like to get codes in 2017 and not wait another couple of years. And maybe later on we'll explore combining with the city or whichever.
You said something.
The only thing I was going to say is could we take an approach to adopt the building codes of the city of Topeka as a standalone item, and then analyze and evaluate what the best approach is to monitor and comply with those building codes. That may be an approach we could take.
I guess that's why I asked Barry as far as the resolution that takes
Right.
that action. Could we just adopt the codes
Well,
and then
I
do
feel
the
like
rest later?
without a set of rules to go by, I'm open myself up for possible issues with homeowners for the national code, which I don't want. I was with the committee that adopted a city code, and we took things out like water sprinkler systems in homes for fire protection. We moved more towards the energy conservation code that fit Topeka, Kansas, and also fits Shawnee. So these codes have been amended, and we spent probably about a year on that, amending those. And that's why, big reason I was on the committee, I want to make sure we got something close to what we're also doing in the city.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Given that, at this point, I would ask or make a motion that we have Barry draft a resolution to adopt Phase 1 and have Phase 2 go to a committee to look at working with the city of Topeka on interlocal or to explore the alternate financing of Phase 2.
With that motion, meaning not the allocation, the removal of those funds,
Yes.
just the adoption of the
Of a building code,
Okay.
right, okay.
And no date on when that would be on the agenda. So there is a motion.
All right, I'll
Is there a
second that.
second by Commissioner Archer. Again, this is just to have Barry Beagle draft a resolution to adopt the building codes. And so before we vote, though, I'm going to hear from anybody in the audience who, well, let's vote on that because we're not taking final action. All those in favor say,
Make sure I understand, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So really, we're having a three-step approach. First, we're going to adopt the building code. Second, we're going to look at what do we do in the interim. And then third, we're going to come up with an enforcement process. Very smiling, and
Yeah,
and
I need to have some
I must be
clarification as
wrong.
well. No. I just want to make sure that I'm fully understanding as well. So with the motion, we would implement,
And we're not implementing, we're directing you to prepare a resolution.
I
for
understand, but
implementation.
wrong choice of word. Preparing a resolution, but it would adopt the code, set the affidavit of code compliance and the program fund to collect the fees?
No, there would not, the third part's not there.
Okay. So whatever revenue is collected would still go back into the general fund?
At this point.
At this point, okay.
While the committee is looking at the enforcement part of it and whether or not there's any ability to work with the city of Topeka.
Very good. Thank you.
all those in favor say aye. Oh, sure.
I would like to see permits for the contractors. I think that would be, as far as a license goes. I mean, I don't know if that's within the code, is it?
Yes, it would require the contractor license.
Okay, I would like to see that.
And again, this is just directing Barry to draft the resolution, so we will entertain that resolution at another time, and there may be potential changes even from that. But this is just to direct Barry to do that resolution. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And again, there wasn't a time, Barry, I'm gonna let you, I heard before 2017, so we have a couple of meetings yet here before the end of the year, but reminder, it's a home rule resolution, so we need 2 readings. So I'll leave that up to you then.
Those cases.
Okay. I do want to mention too, though, that while we say city and county, the cities in Shawnee County are within the county. We value all our constituents, but what we're talking about is the unincorporated areas of the county that don't have these building codes. But I just want to make sure that that often gets lost sometimes, city versus county. It's not city versus county, okay? Yeah. Anyone else in the audience wanting to make any comments today on this item? Yes.
I didn't hear this get covered, but I just wanted to make sure, because a couple of the questions we had in our public address was, everybody was worried about not being able to do things themselves. As with the city, that would be the same way. We're not trying to take anything away from somebody who wants to build their own stuff.
Sure.
So I just wanted to note that, and as with them, I think they definitely need to be licensed. That's one of the big things I see as a remodeler. It's scary, some of the things we run into in the county, and that's part of what has pushed this. And a lot of people come to people like us to come in and fix things, and they have no recourse at that point. So this is very important to the people of the Home Builder Association.
Okay, thank you. And again, commissioners, I know that we welcome public input, email, phone calls, whatever, on this item, so more to come. Anything else, Ivan? Barry? No? Okay. Thank you.
Item 5, administrative communications.
Are there any administrative communications? First from department directors? No? I know we do have those in the audience who would like to make a comment. This is time for administrative communication or public comment. You can approach the podium and just state your name and the reason you're before the commission. Yes. Go ahead and come on up to the podium. Sorry.
My name is Preston Whitehead. I've been a resident of Montero for 18 years and been a victim of vandalism and other things. Back in April, May, there was a crime watch site that was formed for Montero only. And then it was suggested on that site that we start a neighborhood watch group, which we did in August. And I was elected to be president of that group, fortunately for me. Over the summer, we've seen an increase of crime, a lot of the vandalism from houses and cars being egged, swimming pools and tires being slashed, to cars being set on fire, trampolines being set on fire, people knocking on people's doors and windows at all hours of the night and take off running. So when we had our first neighborhood watch meeting, the subject of a curfew came up. And so we did a lot of research. Like I said, I've been a resident in Montero for almost 18 years, and I thought we had a curfew. And in talking with a lot of our deputies and even Sheriff Jones, I found out we do not. So we checked around in different neighborhoods like Rossville and Overbrook, Carbondale, Olathe, Kansas. A lot of different areas around us have curfews. Since Montero is kind of its own little entity, we decided we put together a petition drive for a curfew for Montero. Talking with our deputies, there's really nothing out there they can enforce. They see them out. Why are you out? Go home, unless they catch them in the middle of the act of doing something. So we've had Sheriff Jones and numerous deputies at our meetings, and they have really pushed us to try to do a curfew drive. I've got a petition here with 994 signatures from the Montero neighborhood that are wanting a curfew, and I do have copies of what we're looking for as far as the curfew goes, if you folks would like copies of that. Basically, we want to try and get it in as a home rule resolution that applies just to the Montero area only. Basically, minor children under the age of 18 that are out without a legal guardian, church-related, school-related, work-related type issues, can and will be subject to fines, which should be enforced by our sheriff's department, our sheriff's offices. So I have numerous neighbors here from the Montero neighborhood that have been either victims or neighbors of victims out there of the going-ons out there. We did put together a patrol group where we get out and patrol our streets at night, and we've identified a lot of our activity going on out there between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m. are juveniles. We've caught them. They range anywhere from the age of 13, 14, 15 years old that are out running our streets at 3 a.m. in the morning and doing God knows what. So I'm coming to you folks asking to get this implemented as a home rule resolution and to order to be a curfew applied just to the Montero area, basically to give our deputies something that they can enforce. Like I said a while ago, right now they have nothing. Why are you out? Go home. That's about the extent of it. And this here, and I've talked to several deputies. In my understanding, there's different fines that can be implemented. I'm not sure what the procedure is on that, but I'm before you guys asking for help and trying to get us a curfew implemented for the Montero area only. So, and I do have, like I said, I do have the resolution. You guys are welcome to a copy of it.
Well, and I am aware of the fact that the sheriff's office and our county legal has had some conversation on this, and I'm looking to Jonathan to give us some feedback as commissioners on what our options are to date. Preston, you can leave that. Do you have a copy of this? Is that a whole entire?
I have the petition itself.
Okay.
The signatures, is that what you want?
Well, I'm going to ask Madam Clerk what we need to, you need the entire. Yes, Commissioner Archer.
There's a curfew in Rossville?
It's a city. I'm not entirely sure exactly.
We're not asking for
yet.
increased deputies or
With
anything like
the-
that. We're just trying to give them
yeah.
something that they can legally
I believe,
enforce.
Jonathan, I'm going to have you come up to the podium.
It's history.
I believe
This is the
cities
resolution.
can inflict, wait till they're finished.
The same wording.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to defer as far as where curfews can be set and where they cannot be set.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jonathan Berzon, Assistant County Counselor. This issue first came up back in late 2014. There was a request from some of the neighbors out there to impose a curfew in Montera subdivision. And at that time, we looked into the legalities of the issue, and basically what the courts say is you're impacting First Amendment rights, freedom of association. You're also impacting due process and equal protection, 14th Amendment, because you're treating minors differently than adults. And in order for that to pass legal muster in a court, they want to see some compelling evidence that youths are disproportionately responsible for the crime out there. So at the time, we looked at the crime statistics, and basically, you've got to look at arrests, because unless someone's arrested, you don't know who committed the crime. And at the time, there wasn't anything disproportional. We looked at that again when this came up, and since the census data shows that Shawnee County's population is 75% adults, 25% juveniles. Since 2014, when this first came up, the arrest statistics are 80% adults, 20% juveniles. So it's not disproportional at this time. I will say that in the first half of this year, the number of juvenile arrests is up to basically 30% versus 70% adults. So it's shown an increase this year, but overall since 2014, it's 80-20, and the census data is 75-25. So it's not really disproportional. So my concern is that if we adopted this, gave someone a ticket, first thing they're going to do is ask a court to declare it unconstitutional, and we're going to have to support it with statistics, which we really don't have at this time. So.
And Jonathan, I mean, Montera is not within a city. It's in the
Right.
unincorporated areas of the
Right.
county. Again, it's a neighborhood, but it's not an incorporated city.
Right, and that's the other thing. I tried to find another neighborhood curfew, and I couldn't really find anything on the internet, so whatever that's worth. But some places do have entertainment district curfews, like around the bars and nightclubs. They'll say no minors after a certain hour, but I really couldn't find any specific this neighborhood only curfew. They're usually citywide, countywide, or like I said, entertainment district boundaries. So, be happy to answer any questions, guys.
Well, just point of information, could you have a curfew for all the citizens in Montera?
Yeah, I think you'd have to have the same, you'd have to show disproportionate crime versus, I guess, the countywide. And I don't know, I haven't done that inquiry yet, statistics to show that the crime there is disproportionately higher than other areas of the county.
Okay, so that would be a requirement.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank
I do know that.
I'll have you step to the podium so we can.
I do know that a lot of the crimes weren't being reported out there. Like I said, we have a crime watch page, and people would get on there all the time. This happened last night, that happened last night. And we would respond back, well, did you report it? Well, no, I didn't report it because I didn't think it was that big a deal. So we've changed the mindset out there with our group, and we've got people reporting things now. And I think our sheriff's offices will verify that they have seen an increase in crime in the Montera area because people are reporting it now. Whereas before they would just, what, no big deal, just kids being kids and whatnot. Like I said, you know, we have a patrol group that's out patrolling at night, and we see a lot of young people under the age of 18 that are out running around on those streets of Montera between 1 and 4 a.m. And why, we don't know why they're out. It's the responsibility of the parents, yes, it probably is. But right now, like I said, other than our deputies asking why they're out, go home, there's nothing they can really do. My understanding, talking to some deputies, that if a curfew is put in place, that, you know, the possibility of identifying where they live and let mom and dad know that there is a curfew. And then the next time they could be subject to fine. So we're just asking for help to try to help, because a lot of the things that have been going on out there, kids have reported in the neighborhood that we did that. They're reporting it at schools that they've done that, and that information has been passed on to the sheriff's office, because we've got names that have been identified, and I know the sheriff's offices, my understanding, they were gonna talk to the school about some of these kids that are admitting in classroom that they're setting cars on fire and things like that. So, we're just asking for help, asking for something that our deputies can actually enforce, versus right now of having nothing. So, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
May I make a suggestion,
Yes.
Madam Chair? This wasn't noticed up. The public didn't know we were going to be discussing this issue. And it may be a good idea to have an agenda item where the public knows we're going to talk about it, and we can look at the documentation you brought. We can have our legal department research it further, but then the public would know we're going to discuss this particular issue and have an opportunity to comment on it if it's appropriate. So that would be my
Some direction.
recommendation, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Instead of having this important issue talked about in administrative communications, to actually have an agenda item.
Commissioner.
If that works for you.
Yep.
And thank you again, Preston, for bringing this to our
Appreciate it,
attention.
thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Is it the 12th?
Would that work as far as the 12th, next Monday, having it on the
I'm sorry?
agenda? Having it on the agenda next Monday, the 12th?
Sure.
Okay.
And then you can alert everybody that's part of the safety team, and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll just, if there's no objection, I'll just make those plans. For those of you, though, who may not be able to come on the 12th, any other administrative communications, anyone wanting to make any comments at this time? And please just state your name, and then you can make any comments.
My name's Roberta Fisher, and we have been a resident homeowner for 30 years up there, and we have noticed a big difference. My daughter was 8. This was a lot of years ago. She's going to be 39 this month. They had a ration of robberies go through Terra, and our house was one of them that was broken into. And then we got deadbolts, and they tried to force themselves into our back door again, but we had the deadbolt which protected us. But we are concerned about this, about the safety of, the community out there, and the children, and everyone.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, that item will be on the agenda for December 12th. Okay.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
And there is a need for an executive session for a period not to exceed 15 minutes. And the purpose is consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. And that is a motion for 15 minutes. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, can I add non-elected personnel discussion to
Yes.
that? Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bueller, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. It'll be 15 minutes.
I need clarification on, did you have a specific date on that?
No,
I'm gonna come back
there
on that,
wasn't a-
because Kim came out and asked us, and we said,
No,
okay,
there
so-
wasn't a date. No.
Okay.
Okay, we are back in session. No action required. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah,